go ahead. Meeting to order. I guess I will call the roll again myself. Counselor Kimmy,
Here.
Counselor Teeter,
Here.
Counselor Duggar,
Here.
Counselor Hartmeyer Prigg,
Here.
Counselor Husson,
Here.
and Counselor Tivnon is joining us.
Here.
Do we have her?
I'm here.
All right, we got her. She said talking. Okay. We are on continuation of our retreat from yet. Are you telling me to hold on? I often get people shushing me, but I'll just go ahead and allow it. I mean, to be clear, my 8-year-old does it at least 14 times a day, so. Okay, I'm glad. All right. Well, we are together for 4 hours. None of us will complain if we get done early. I would say my hopes is that we ended yesterday on a really good note. It felt really good. We had a lot of staff input, and even though Counselor Tivnon was missed, her contribution was the exact same as the council, which really felt great from alignment. So I know today we're going to go over some challenges and commitments and next steps, and I hope that today feels as great as yesterday. So no pressure, Nancy, but hope you can deliver.
To get going. But I wanted to start off by just asking in the room if there are any reflections, any reactions, takeaways from yesterday that you want to share. We will go back and take fresh eyes to the priorities just to kind of reset, not to backpedal, but just to kind of remind ourselves and see with fresh eyes if it still fits. And then I'll walk through the full agenda of what we're going to cover during our time here this evening, but really it shifts gears towards strategic planning. And so we're going to get that component started. So starting off, reactions, thoughts from yesterday? I'm going to keep saying last night because it's the night now. Oh, okay. Thank you.
So I know we came out yesterday, many of us sharing the word of alignment and feeling very aligned with our conversation. I think that feels really good. One of the things I appreciated about the process is that we weren't always saying the exact same thing, but we were asking questions to clarify our understanding what we're saying and pushing back sometimes. And I think we don't always agree on the process, but we are kind of trying to point the same direction. I appreciate the way that we came to our landing spot there at the end.
Excellent. That, speaking specifically about the priorities, presumably. Okay. Good. Patricia, we got you right over here. Anybody else? And no pressure. You don't have to say. I'm just giving opportunity for reflections.
I'll just add, it's no surprise to me that there was a lot of alignment. I've worked with not only my colleagues, but the staff for a while. And like, it's not surprising to me. What what I'm excited about both tonight and going forward is not the value alignment, but it's the prioritization work and it's the risk tolerance. It's sort of how you operationalize some of the aligned things that might cause differences, but like I feel like we're in a really good place where we are value aligned on these things, and that feels really good. And I echo what Councilor Teeter said. It's a lot safer and better place to start when we talk about difficulty in prioritization and risk and all these other various parts to operationalize. So I'm very excited and optimistic.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely starting at a shared place as you're navigating all this. We will be zooming out and kind of thinking more big picture around next steps and direction for the city, for the community. We had some sidebar conversation, some larger conversation yesterday about kind of the bigger framing, right, around strategic planning and charting that longer term course. What does that look like? And so therefore, how do you define priorities within that? We had some conversation during a break. That's what we want to start thinking about today. And so the priorities that we looked at yesterday really are a bridge to the future of the strategic planning work that we're going to be going on. And I'm still looking to Jesse to see how I get this up on the screen so I can. All right. I think we're now really on track. So now I feel much better. Thank you for all of the technical assistance and the guidance. So we had our reflections from yesterday. But as we get started, I wanted to have something that kind of brings us together. One of the hopes for our time together that was expressed yesterday by a few people was spending time together, right? We're going to do intentional work tonight, just as we did yesterday. But just sending a little bit of light levity to start for an evening. To get us started. So I have a question here up on the screen that I'm going to ask you to think about and just kind of a quick share, quick icebreaker. The question is, what is one memorable holiday tradition, treat, or decoration from your childhood? Just a little bit of levity and softness as we start the day and do a little bit of share. I'll ask a volunteer to get it. Go ahead, Nicole.
We left here is put up I have two Christmas trees, one that's like the pretty formal Christmas tree, but the other one that's just all of the family. And my mom used to do that. Oh gosh. And my mom used to do that. And there's like seriously ones from like 1975 that I have and some of those. So it's just fun to put those up with the kids and remember when we went to Cabo or remember in Hawaii or those kind of things that we always pick one up, even though they always complain. So I always had to stop and get an ornament. So.
You have a dedicated tree for those memories.
For the family ones, yeah.
Nice, very nice. Okay, Ashley, you want to go?
Sure. So we actually put up our tree last night because I needed some festive things, and it's already like mid-December somehow, so it was like now or never. But one of my favorite memories is actually just from last year. My husband's been learning to play the ukulele, and he was playing Jingle Bells, and all three of our dogs were sitting with him on the sofa and just like watching. And it was just the cutest thing. And it's just this little like 20-second video, but I could just like watch it over and over and then like see like, an ear move differently, or like my deaf dog that she can't hear it, but is still just watching intently. That's one of my new favorite holiday things.
So that's good. So new holiday memories, old holiday memories. Tap into the one that resonates for you.
I think for me, it's probably the most recent holiday, Thanksgiving. Not necessarily, we don't celebrate Christmas, so it's more just the opportunity to kind of test out recipes and to have a big meal together. And I think it's just fun now, as my kids have gotten older, to like watch them just gorge a little bit and just teenage boys and kind of what they're interested in and what they're able to participate in, and my younger son being able to contribute something that he was both interested in eating and actually making it himself. So it was just fun to watch.
I forget who said it. Maybe Jocelyn, you said it about seeing things through your kids' eyes and how it changes things so much. I'm gonna come over here just because I saw Nadia raise her hand, so I don't want her to have to be last now after we go all the way through here. So. Did. That's okay. Go ahead, Kenya. We'll keep moving.
We don't celebrate Christmas, but we have a holiday called Eid. And my memory, and this is more from the East Coast where I grew up, was you would start the morning going to a prayer or like a sermon, and then after prayer, everyone in our community would go from house to house to house to house, and we'd eat all day because it was usually after Ramadan. And you wouldn't have to go in your parents' car because every car was ending up at all the houses. So we'd probably hit like 10 houses in a day. And we've never really brought it back to life here in Oregon, but we've tried with the kids, and it's just so fun to eat all day and then to go to 10 different homes and then to not have to be in your car and just be in a car of your friends. So it was a really good one.
Oh, what a great memory. That's fun. Travis?
Go with an easy one, which is just my mother. She passed away a few years ago, but she always used to make something she called thick, sometimes chewy, sometimes break your teeth. Peanut butter, oatmeal, chocolate, nuts, berries, twigs from the plants that the berries were picked from, I think. Sometimes you'd freeze them, then they were even like harder to eat, but more of an experience. They became a character, like every family gathering we had. It was a member of the family was these cookies. I have the recipe or a recipe. I haven't been able to recreate quite the magic, but I'm going to try again this year.
Pull out the sticks. That's probably the magic ingredient. Pete.
Along the same lines as you, my mother is a master candy maker. So she's 89, and so that is a harder thing to accomplish nowadays. But is still doing it. All the traditional candies, divinity, panucci, fudge, and somehow I think the tradition's going to leave our family because I can't replicate the work, and I've tried.
That surprises me about you because you're so Betty homemaker that you can't make fudge. So I'll try your next version. I'll be your guinea pig. My mom was not a baker. She was an athlete and she never cooked anything. But on Christmas, for as long as I could remember, in our stockings were the Lifesaver holiday packs for all four of us kids. All of us hated them, like super hated them, but every year they were like the family thing. And then a few months later, we'd throw them out. And so a few years ago, my mom stopped doing it, and to which all of us absolutely revolted about waking up on Christmas and not having these. And I found myself last year buying them for my kids, this really shitty holiday candy that no one's going to eat, but it is the memory that matters, probably like the cookies people can't really crunch down on.
So when I have two brothers, and there's a pretty big age gap. So for Christmas, my mom would do joke stockings. So like everything in your stocking would like come from the dollar store or something. So like my brother got a paint your own donkey. Or we got fake lottery tickets one year, but it was always the goal was to make you laugh and to maybe say something about your personality that they only got to say on Christmas Day. So it was always joke stockings.
We're very secular, but we did have Santa Claus. And looking up, and I saw this. I absolutely did, but apparently, yeah.
I was trying hard to think about Christmas in my life. You know, I was born in South Korea, so trying to remember when I was young. I remember walking down the street when it's cold and snowing, and you hear these Christmas songs coming out of these record stores. And all of a sudden, a few years later, it's all gone. You don't hear anything because of stricter copyright laws that you couldn't play music outside or you gotta pay. So, but I miss those. I miss the Christmas music, walking down the street, ice shopping, and going to stores, enjoy a cup of, hot chocolate. Well, we don't really have a tradition because I grew up in Korea and then Kuwait. There's no Christmas. You come here, immigrant family, so you don't really have a family around. So, but then I try to create my own tradition by meeting my kids in Las Vegas every year. So we'll see how it happens. Yeah. Well, before Christmas. Huh?
So Easter is my favorite holiday because you don't have a lot of pressure around it. And in Jamaica, it starts Holy Thursday and it ends on Monday. And those are holiday days. But on Sunday, you take a basket of everything that you're grateful for and you take it and you offer it. And my mother was a seamstress. She made wedding dresses, did her own beading. And so she would take shoe boxes and she would make baskets for every and anybody. And so she would pack them. We would get to pack them with our favorite things that we wanted to give away. And they had to be good things that you wanted, but you had to sacrifice happily. And so it was always fun filling your baskets because they were so pretty and taking them to church on Sunday and giving them away. So that's a tradition that we had as a child.
Yeah, one of the things I remember is we didn't have a lot of money growing up, but on Christmas Eve, my brothers and I would always save up our money, and there was a kid in the neighborhood that had a lot of comic books, and we would go down and we would buy comic books for pennies on the dollar, stay up all night long and read comic books together.
So before the meeting, the mayor made fun of me for my Carhartt jacket. And so my memory kind of ties in with the Carhartt jackets because they are more of my childhood and upbringing in rural North Carolina. We used to go on the side of a mountain and cut down Christmas trees. It was always really fun and probably a little dangerous. And then afterwards, after Christmas, we would take the tree down and then throw it out for our goats. So Carhartt was part of the tradition. We'd put on our Carhartt jackets and go.
In fairness, I wasn't making fun of Kevin. I asked whose coat it was because it's a working man's coat.
I'm gonna butcher how to say this, so hopefully my husband's not watching. So when the kids were little, in a lot of Asian countries, for New Year's, you get money, and so you put them in these for Japanese, it's pochikoru, bukuro, and so they're really, really pretty and they're very ornate and stuff, and so we always liked getting those for the kids, and of course they liked the money and I liked the envelopes. So.
Yeah, I think for me, when I was maybe 10, both my parents and my grandparents never had put up Christmas lights or holiday lights outside their house, and I just insisted that was what I wanted to do. And so every single year, including as an adult, including as a college student, I've always done lights. And we haven't put ours up this year because I'm having shoulder injuries, but I will get something up. But it's just been kind of my thing. And every year, my husband Quinn, not the biggest fan of it originally, but now he's getting into it. Like it's like this thing that every year we buy a little bit more after the holidays when they're on sale. Kind of a thing. Doing, yeah.
I'll try to say this respectfully as a term of endearment. I grew up in rural Missouri in Carhartt country, and but I miss snow a lot. No one has said snow, but for my childhood, I miss it a lot. There is no snow left in Missouri really anymore these days, but we would always do something at night on Christmas, and you don't do sledding, you do what's called hooding, and you just take an old hood from an old car and you turn it over and you chain that to the back of a truck. And my dad would just drive all of us kids in the neighborhood around on the gravel roads. And the amount of injuries that came out of that built character, I'll never forget though.
Tubing.
It's a hard one to follow. So when my kids were young, my mother-in-law gave us the Elf on the Shelf. And at the time, I was perhaps a little annoyed because I had very young kids. And those of you that have kids know that the holiday season is a lot. And so to have to take the elf every night and hide him and put him in a new spot, and then the kids couldn't touch him. But the kids loved the elf. And then they would go up to wherever he was sitting that day and like tell him their Christmas list. And then they would make little presents for him. And he became this really fun tradition. And now that they are older and know that I'm the one that moves the elf, I said that it's their turn to move the elf. So my oldest son the other day positioned him with a couple of alcohol cans around him and like a little note that says, "No one believes in me." And so I feel like we have evolved it into a new tradition where we're just going to have like fun with all the crazy places he can go.
The transition for the elf and for the whole family. Yeah, I am so grateful that the elf came after my kids were a little bit older. I would have failed that. But, well, thank you. Okay, that's fun. Nice to share a little bit something personal. Understand? Did you want to share something? Or you want to just pass? Okay, good. All right, so let's go and take a look now. Oops, I skipped right over the agenda quickly. There we go. So here's our agenda for this evening, just to kind of get us a little bit grounded and oriented. So we'll do a little bit of an overview on strategic planning, kind of what it is, why it matters, and kind of an overview. Make sure we're all sort of speaking the same language about expectations. Then we'll have some conversation around what is a successful process going to look like from your perspective. We want to use this time hear about what are your goals for the plan itself, also for the process. What does that look like? The roles of council versus staff, and then who should be engaged. So we'll just get some ideas in the room. Really tonight is about starting to get grounded in harvesting where you want to go with this process. And so that's the intent there. And then we're going to do a couple of fun activities. I think you guys will really enjoy them. One is really kind of big picture sort of visioning around what are those things that are true today about Beaverton that you appreciate, you value, you don't want to change. And what are those things that are not true today that if you fast forward 10 years from now, you'd like to see happen? What are those things you want to make happen? So what do we want to preserve and what do we want to create? So we're going to do an activity that allows us to kind of brainstorm and explore each of those different ideas and see what themes start to emerge. And again, we'll put all of this content into the summary report so you can use this then as you're moving forward and your strategic planning process. And then the last part that we will spend our time together on this evening is really just doing some brainstorms, and we'll do this at table group around strengths, challenges, and opportunities. And so trying to get grounded on some of the things that are important for the current context, and it gives you something to work from when you start to move into your strategic planning efforts. That's our agenda and our approach for this evening. And we'll wrap up and questions or concerns? No, you can't be yawning already, Travis. Come on. Okay, that's fair. Oh, that's fair. Exactly. So I want to bring us back, first of all, to where we concluded last night, yesterday evening. Priorities. I wanted to bring them back in the room just to see how they're still feeling, how they're landing. And keep in mind, as we, I think, talked about and clarified in yesterday, wrapping up, this is the jumping off point. And so obviously there'll be a work plan that's developed, opportunity to explore and touch these in a further way. But in terms of the broad brushstrokes, we have 5: fiscal sustainability, affordable housing, enhanced mobility, that was the safe street, economic development, but particularly a focus on that, and then community safety. And we talked about how that incorporates a lot, not just broadly defined. And we also talked about the overarching need, priority to do community engagement effectively to support afternoon around the importance and that effectively related to the budget and related to the levy process, but this is so that's where we landed with this, and I know that we have Allison listening in too, and hopefully she can see herself in here because we shared some of her priorities for our final report. But any reactions, reflections on this? Do they still feel like they represent the things that are highest need, highest? Yeah. The moment to talk about the
Exactly.
things, but
On fiscal sustainability, to put levy and fees up there seems very transactional and something that's going to be implemented at the very beginning of the year, where it seems as though it should be more, that is one piece of the fiscal sustainability puzzle, but that we should be discussing fiscal sustainability in general as a priority, and the levy and fees are one aspect of that.
no, I think that's a good comment, and I think that for each of those where we have sort of those elements in parentheses, it was some of the context that got us there, and so how you navigate that. But I appreciate the mention, and you know, doing continuous improvement. Some of those other efforts, efficiencies, also contribute there to be. Else like making you twitch?
Yes, it's on this blue sideways, just the communication and engagement. And I want to make sure, however the iteration we pass this, that staff really hear that that is a key, what the council is saying out loud. And so I know we have Nicole in the room, but like when this document's created, the community and the staff should understand where we are. And so it's there. It's in a different color. It's clear it transcends everything, but I think we'll have some work to do on communicating it.
Absolutely, and yeah, does not have to be the end version. This is our capture from yesterday. I think the intent was to illustrate that it overarches everything in terms of an important element. How we present that ultimately back in your report and any final deliverables. Right, any other? And this is the beginning of the journey, so obviously they'll have other opportunities to. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about strategic planning. Again, this is just an overview to try to see the conversation, get us warmed up so that you are prepared as you're moving forward with this effort. Okay. Yes. I'm failing my technology pieces in all areas. Is that going to work okay? Okay. All right. Stay tuned. We'll turn it up. All right. So strategic planning, you know, at its basic core, really looks to answer 3 basic questions. And so it's not complicated. You don't want to overthink it, but we want to be intentional about how you have these conversations. And so 3 questions are kind of, what is the current context? You know, how are things today? We want to understand the organization, the community, the current context. So we start off with I'm losing my thought. That threw me off a little bit. What do we know to be true today? And that can be those things that are working well. We're going to brainstorm some of these ideas this evening. And then the next question is, what do we hope will be true in the future? This is our vision, what we're shooting for, what we're aiming for. These can be strategic goals. This can be your vision statement. And then importantly, the third question is, how are we going to get there? And that really starts to point you in the direction of clear and crisp goals and strategies. The language that you use, you'll have to decide what works for you. But that becomes then your roadmap. It drives a lot of the work of the organization. It helps you both in terms of allocating and defining what you're going to spend your resources on, but also tracking and monitoring and communicating your progress along the way. So this graphic, which is a lot on a screen, I recognize, you might recognize the look and feel. This is one of Julie's pieces, provides an overview of the process. We can make this available if you're interested afterwards, but it outlines the elements of a strategic planning process. So where we are looking at the environmental scan, considering and defining what is your purpose, what is your mission as an organization, defining your core values, where you are, and then moving into where do you want to go? This is your vision. This is where you want to engage with staff, with the community, to understand what that future may look like and how you want to define that, establish your clear goals, and then how do we get there? This can move from broad goals and objectives into work plans at the department level. And so there's a nice alignment and link throughout those pieces so that you can have a comprehensive approach to how you're moving forward. So a lot on the screen, but an overview of strategic planning at the highest level. How does this fit in? And we get this question a lot with strategic planning. It's a longer term plan. We want to make sure that we're focused on 3 to 5 year horizon. So you have time to work through issues, challenges, opportunities that are in front of you. It's not a 1 year set of priorities, but it's also different from your long-term comp plan or longer-term strategies you may have in place, even your CIP. So it nests within those. It needs to be aligned and informed by those elements. So it sort of falls in a 3 to 5 year stage in the middle, but it provides that overarching framework for all the work you do. From there, annual priority setting from council within the strategic plan, departmental strategic plans and work plans, budget allocation, these all stem from the strategic plan. So they all nest together comfortably when they're done intentionally. So that's a little bit of an overview, kind of the language. But I wanted to have some conversation in the room for all of you to think about what is going to constitute success from your perspective. And this will be helpful for those who are working on the strategic planning effort going forward, defining that. So when you think about the final plan, what is the goal? What is going to be successful? Additionally, what does a successful process look like from you? What are the ingredients that you want to make sure are incorporated into your process? So we'll talk about success, and then also want to have some conversation around roles. The role of council, the role of staff, and how those two fit together, complementary. Talk about those, and then engagement, who all needs to be at the table in one form. And so this is a little bit of early project chartering for your. So starting off with that first part, and we'll just do this as a large group. We'll have other opportunities to work in small groups, but what must the final plan accomplish? What does success look like from your? Sharing our comments over there.
I know one of the things I've always been a little anxious about a strategic plan because I feel like we have so many departments kind of doing their own strategic plan. So I think a thing a final plan really needs to accomplish is weaving the work of the different departments, which is not to say that would guide it, but because I see like an economic strategic plan, I see, each group kind of working on there. So I think weaving that will be really important for me.
Really critical that you have all those pieces nesting together and that they're complementary, and the strategic plan charts the course and you have the pieces, whether it's a library strategic plan, we heard about that underway with the library, or a broader economic development plan, that they're contributing to the strategic. What else? Mayor. Sorry. Go. You need to keep your eye on your upstanding.
That is okay. I think the kind of mission vision part of it, the why. We are a body that meets a few times a month. Always have a packed agenda. We can rarely weigh in on every single thing. So I think that will help us establish the context and the context and why we're doing what we're doing, to allow staff to have better understanding beyond just, I think about like the enhanced mobility, right? Does that mean we want to build a 10-lane freeway through the middle of Beaverton? Or does that mean we want complete streets? And I think those why statements and the mission and vision and really clarifying to that will give staff that additional context to understand what that actually, those prioritization, those priorities, will give them a context and meaning in a way that
Why don't we
allows us
choose
to weigh in where we need to, but not to be a roadblock constantly.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And it makes a lot of back and forth conversation easier because you're having a same conversation. Right. Exactly. Mayor.
I kind of look at the strategic plan like an investment strategy and why now? And I think it's really important now that the council's instituted term limits, we're going to have elected officials moving through the system a lot more. When I joined the council many years ago, I had been the only one to join in a really long time. I joined colleagues that had all almost served over a decade when I joined. And so their historic knowledge of the city was really in depth. All the long-term staff was there, but what we have seen now is immense turnover in executive staff and elected leadership. And in that kind of space, it's really easy to be responsive to the elected officials that are trying to get something done right now, which is important for all of us. And I point to this building all the time. The past council had immense reserves. There were strategic and water investments. The reason we don't have to worry about water is 20 or 30 years of investment in a water strategy that was, if you live in Beaverton, you get Beaverton's water, and we can control the rate in our future. And so my fear of not having a strategic plan is that we're very subjected to the crisis of the moment. And just like your long-term investment for retirement, when you have a off year or a crisis, you still keep investing and you still keep looking forward to that ultimate goal of retirement. And so I think the best thing we could give our children is this kind of plan that transcends us. And the plan should not, I know what you want in it, what it should do. It should not be about today's crisis. It should be about the long-term health of the city and to allow us the time to think about what do we want Beaverton 10 or 20 years absent of the crisis right now, whether it's COVID or an ice storm, but it's going to give us that ability to really think about the long-term health of the city. And another just shorter example of why we're good at this is Bureau and urban redevelopment. And really, 14 years ago, when we asked voters to change it, we had the vision that is just now starting to come to life. So what is this council's mark going to be for the future? And it's setting that foundation and steadiness for staff to be able to work towards something long-term.
Gives you an opportunity to think forward and be aspirational about what do we want to create and what's it going to take to get there. I do think that the value of understanding the current context allows you to then prioritize within the plan about how you're going to get there. But you absolutely don't want to miss the opportunity to think about what is that future we want to create and defining it in a way that people can connect to. We talked yesterday about storytelling and how you connect to things. It's the same idea. You want to be able to create something that people see themselves in and can be excited about. And then you can start to align the elements within that. Uh-oh, did I just say what you were going to say? You can, please. Okay. Okay, all right. All right, so other goals of the process. What does success look like from your perspective? Even thinking about the process, because it's the end plan, right? And having something that provides stability and vision all bundled together. But to get there, what the process, what does that look like to you? Or a process that is successful and vibrant? Patricia.
Staff will be able to understand the why, and they will be able to get behind it. They will learn how to get behind it. And then to the mayor's point, it won't be about what's in front of us, but the vision will be very clear as we ourselves are growing towards that vision. I'm thinking about even in HR, it will affect professional development. It will affect organizational development. It will affect how we interview. It will affect how we recruit, how we even write our recruitment plans. So I believe it will actually shape what we want to be in order to change what we have now.
You raised a good point in terms of the interconnectedness between the community that you want to have and the environment you want to create, and how the organization needs to shape and adapt in order to be able to get there. That's an important part. Am I still messing up? Oh, good. Okay, good. And as a part of the process, right? And that's a key. Allison, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm speaking, but I don't know if anyone in the
Counselor
room.
Tipton, we can't hear you.
Yeah. I'm talking, but it doesn't sound like anyone can hear me.
Yeah, we see it says you're talking on the top, but we just can't hear you. And once you know, he could just sense that you were talking to impress our table over here.
Yeah, it sounds like something's wrong with the speakers.
All right. If you can hear us, we're going to continue to work on making sure that it connects in a way that we can actually hear. We want to hear your words. So we might have to come back and just check on that. Yeah, if you want to put in the chat, maybe we can read out your comments if it. Huh?
Oh, I just said I want to hear her voice, so I know she's okay. We miss you, Counselor Tipton. I will say from the process, for me, and I know you say who should be engaged, but I think engagement is actually a huge part of the process being a success for me. And having a little bit of space to dream, because I think that does kind of help when you're looking towards your future, but also like taking learnings from what has worked, and it has to be grounded in reality of budget constraints or of just the services we want to provide, right? And so thinking about what does our city look like? What are the services that we want to be able to provide in the long term? Is part of the process. Like I think a lot of the activities we spoke about yesterday are things that are an important part of the process for me to feel like this strategy is like or just is very like the intention behind it is like grounded in those things and that conversation that we've been having.
That's a question too, and this gets a little bit to the process and also to the goal is to think about the primary audience, for your strategic. Is it really focused on the organization and how the organization is going to deliver and move towards your goals, or is it more of a community-oriented plan? And so that's something maybe also to provide some thought on, because who you engage, what that looks like, and the focus of your vision and your goals might be altered depending on that orientation. Thoughts on that?
My first reaction is that I would prefer to have it be more internally focused on the city as an organization, because we have other plans for community and for neighborhoods. But I think that I would like more clarity on internal workings of the organization and how I'm open to other thoughts, but that's my first reaction.
You have your comprehensive plan, you have other, broader focused plans that you're mentioning that may address that broader vision potentially. Reactions on that? Thoughts on kind of being an organizationally focused?
Yeah, I agree with Counselor Teeter. I think we have immense input, and I think almost all of us in this room got our start to politics on a border commission, serving and helping create a vision that way. What I always find challenging about that is we're asking people to have input into something that's really challenging, that they might not see all the pieces. Even the budget committee has a hard time seeing all the pieces. And we are the people's representative in the building. People elected us because to do a strategic plan is going to require strategic level work and a really understanding of everything that a city does. And I think a lot of times in this role, I already feel like it's an inch deep and a mile wide. I don't even know, I can't even explain half the stuff we do to the person I live with. I don't know how we would do it in a way to get input that would be extremely meaningful for us to contribute that process. But I do think it needs to be heavily focused on the city, our infrastructure, and what that looks like.
I can't see the chat from on my view here.
Hi, I'm going to read Allison's comment in the chat. She says, I'll just put in a comment here that what's most important to me in crafting a strategic plan is that we carefully balance aspirations with what's feasible, and that we come out of this with something that's implementable, understanding that future counselors will have opinions that might run counter to what we craft right now. Building in some flexibility and pliability so that this planning document stays relevant and resonant will be important.
Thank you, Allison. You got your absolutely, and that is a really important consideration as you are developing your plan and how you are using it both internally as an organization through implementation plans and reporting and tracking, but also the framework that you have. And if you have a clear and crisp set of goals and framework that transcends, a year-to-year approach, oftentimes they are sustainable. The flexibility and adaptability is critical, dependent on the resources you have available, the opportunities that are immediately in front of you. You want to be able to navigate. That's why the annual priority setting, budget decisions are all really instrumental in how you are implementing forward on your plan. Nadia.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to echo what Counselor Tivnan says. Hi, Counselor Tivnan. I was thinking about like, how do you build some flexibility into the plan? I want to also comment on some of the other statements that were made. And it goes back to what I originally said was, I remember when I first started reading every strategic plan that the city staff, like, if it was like your climate action plan or your, there was like an equity. I mean, like, so I remember all these plans and I don't think that we need external engagement, but I would hope that we're inventorying all those plans and really pulling from their things, because I think we have probably asked on some of these things in the community, and then I don't know what that delivery of what we've asked is. So just going back into like a lot of the plans that we've crafted across departments and really looking for commonalities, I think feels really important with staff and also ensuring that council is sort of touching it as well.
Tapping into the knowledge of those that are in the organization with those plans too, to be sure. All right, other thoughts or comments? Yeah, oh gosh.
It's okay. No, I was just gonna, I think it should be two things: reflective of the community, which is what we brought yesterday with the prioritization. So I think that's the aspect that represents the community values through our discussions, but it should be operationally applied to the city staff, right? Like it should be a document for them to be able to. So I would say both, but we've already done the community part, and now as we craft the strategic plan part of that, it should be directed for internal city staff.
Helpful, I think, for the conversation to happen in the room. And just to get clear, I'm hearing a consistency and alignment in terms of the need, the expectation. But I think it's valuable to have those things said out loud to be able to make sure that you're aiming in the same direction with the same objective. Roles, thoughts or comments on the in the strategic planning process and the use between council as the policy setting board and staff in terms of the process and the flow. Comments on that?
I think that maybe the council's role is more of to kind of set the priorities and like the types of conversations that we've been having. Like we've had consistency, but like adjustments over the years that we've all been together, and that those priorities and maybe some of the goals should influence a strategy, but that I think that a lot of this strategy work would be driven by staff in the sense that they bring all the expertise in their areas. So that's kind of my thinking.
But the vision, set the strategic goals, and we'll go from there. What about, participation, launching, early on, later in the process, once information has been gathered? Thoughts on that in terms of the role of council for driving or engaging in the process? Not an interview, by the way. This is just trying to get the ideas in the room.
I mean, I think part of this evening in my mind is allowing us, because I think I said this in my interview, like, I know us and we want to like touch kind of probably from the beginning and then let staff and folks do the work. I think sometimes we've been at the receiving end of something that started with not necessarily without us, but just by staff. And so it's been more reactive. And so I see the next couple of hours as sort of starting and then leaving staff to sort of permeate and with city leadership to come back to us and let us know what the rest looks like.
To plan to bring back for adoption by council.
I think I would agree with my colleagues on crafting the plan. I think that's accurate. What I'm still unsure of, and I think an internal process, or I need a little bit of time to think about this, but like, will be those moments on the dais over the next 4 to 5 years. Like, how do we operationalize this, not just for staff, but for us? So we're not stepping on it or inadvertently creating new pathways or new complications, right? Like, how do we check each other? How do we check staff? How does staff check us? Like those kind of things I haven't figured out. And I think that's almost more important than the creation of this. It's the maintenance and the updating and all of that sort of stuff. And I just want to think about that.
How it's used. I think
Yeah.
that's an important question, important conversation. While every organization has their own energy approach, typically you see the vision and the goals, developed and owned by council, right? That's setting policies, setting direction, informed, of course, by all the input and the plans that are in place and any kind of engagement activities you do, internal, external. But those two elements often are those that council really owns, and it's a little more aspirational, provides that future direction. The mission of the organization, the values, those things that really tie to organizational culture are oftentimes things that are more internally focused, because it's how are we going to work together to drive, with, of course, council ultimately blessing and kind of weighing in, but that's typically owned by the organization. The strategies and elements are developed by staff and brought to council as well. Okay, I've got two. I'm not sure who was first. Stacy.
I just have some thoughts around our role as executive team, and certainly Jenny's role is the ability to kind of break down silos within our departments and be integrated and not competing, and how we're trying to move forward with a strategic plan to execute.
I think a little bit, well, I agree with Counselor Hassan, but to maybe put an example behind not just some of the plans that council's been involved in created. I think a lot about the facilities master plan. One, it was a really hard process for us for many reasons around consultants and other things. But that plan requires a long-term vision that we've not set. We know that Public Works needs more space. They're outgrowing it. We know that the court building is antiquated. We know that the courts likely need a new space. We know that as the city grows, we have no operations in the southern part of the city. Our special district park is putting a bond out to maintain their buildings. That is a government luxury that most of us don't have. But without a strategic plan, we know these buildings are crumbling. The crisis of the financial situation we're in is always going to keep us from diverting today's resources that direction. And so how do we do that? And then I think there's other things in there that aren't building related. They're tactical. How many police officers do we want operating in the city? We've gone back and forth. Is it a ratio of per thousand? Is it how we're gonna accomplish that? We signed an agreement with THPRD years ago that they are a primary parks provider. We're about to create a whole new, in our North Cooper Mountain. Do we want to continue that? What about the urban growth boundary? If we were to annex all the property that existed, Beaverton would be the second largest city in the state. What is our strategic plan around annexation? So I think this gives us a place to put these things that we've not really talked about. And the plan might say, you know, Beaverton wants to align with the urban growth boundary. And then everything underneath that is staff expertise in how we do that. So I think the council does have a role, because a lot of what we're talking about is policy, but we don't do the tactical work of day to day. But we don't know, you know, we need the chief to inform us on what is the best patrol of the future. What does technology investment look like? Technology in a strategic plan is scary to me because it outdates itself so quickly. So is this really a place for us to talk about wanting to be a city that has technology in it without naming it? So I think for me, it almost needs to have chapters, and then the council give a lot of strategic input, or maybe we say funds and it matches the budget, but we need some ability to focus where input from us is really required. And then it kind of has to go back to staff for a bit of revision. I think it would also be helpful for the council to have strategic plans of other cities, so we get a feel of what it looks like.
Copies.
I've looked at other strategic plans of other cities. Some have similar government structures to us, some that don't. And then I would also say, as somebody that studied history in college, I particularly have studied the Department of Defense. If you look at the Department of Defense plan and stripped away who the president of the time was, it'd be really hard for you to say, was it a Democrat, was it a Republican? Because the national defense strategy stays pretty similar. So I guess all to say, the council needs early input and then often input. And I would imagine if we're going to pass a strategic plan, that I would either through the budget process or through our annual retreat want us to look at it every single year. Similar, you know, we meet with our financial advisor every year to go over basically the same information to say that, yep, that's how we're going to do it. We're going to put this much in the kids' college fund. And then they change. So
Do we have a baby, for example?
have a baby, they throw everything off. But I think that piece is really important to me. We do need staff to tell us what we don't know. And are there parts of the organization from their professional experience that we're completely neglecting?
Well, and I think some of what you're describing that's important is some of the current context that needs to be evaluated in order to understand where are we going, what do we want to do. One of the things that will be helpful is to distinguish between your comp plan and that long-term kind of land use vision that you have, and then kind of the roadmap that might be articulated in that plan, which dives in a lot deeper and does a lot more and has a longer term horizon. But the strategic plan informed by that then ought to talk about how and in what way and in what time periods are we going to start making progress. And so that's where the linkage, the tie back is really important. But I also think it's important to not confuse the two, because you can end up with a strategic plan that makes it a little bit too, it's not easy to operationalize.
Well, and I would just say with the comp plan that it's really great, but it has no strategy or no way to fund it. And when we're giving the city manager goals like this, how does she implement the comp plan under a constrained budget? And so the plans are really great, but they don't point towards anything. And then we update the comp plan, or we end up we're doing it with the TSP right now. We're updating it absent of like how we're going to fund it. It's going to be a really great plan that sits on a shelf.
Yeah, that is not the goal. Stacy. Oh. That's the chair of counterpoint.
I'll be the counterpoint.
Oh.
I just moved. You know, I think actually you make great points, so I'm not going to counter them. I'm just going to maybe put a little bit of, you know, a nuance to what we were talking about yesterday. And I think, you know, the list of 5 things, the idea of the projects versus the strategy, you know, and I think that aspect of, you know, if I'm looking at the transportation thing, I'm looking at it thinking we want to be connected. We want to be safe. We want to make sure that we have a lot of different modes prioritized. You know, we we wanted, we want from you as staff those kinds of things, and then we want to be able to bring forward to you funding plans. Like TSP arguably is a funding plan, right? Because it then we can go out for grants, we can go out and do other things, and so we want to layer in those strategies of how are we going to do it, and spend more of our time on those things rather than necessarily like each project being a new strategy, because each one right now is set up to be that almost, because we don't have the strategic plan. We don't have that thread throughout that's saying mobility is super important to us. And so let's look at all the ways we can, connect. So like, let's look at all the ways, if we're thinking about that long-term four-letter word of annexation, like let's think about how do we want that to go down, and what would it look like, and what are service levels, like what's appropriate service levels. Let's talk about that, and then we can build funding plans and think about it differently.
Well, and then just the tactics generally, right? Yeah. Right. Other thoughts on kind of expectations or hopes related to roles through this? I think that it's very typical, the kind of the way you've described it, and I think the importance of operationalizing it from a council perspective, how you look at that annually, keeps the plan alive. I know that that's the plan you want to have is something that is nimble, adaptable, and used, right? I mean, ultimately, it needs to guide and inform. And if council doesn't buy in and use it as a discussion tool, and staff doesn't align and bring things in line, how they align to the strategic plan, you've missed the opportunity to do so. So really critically important. Okay, so the last one was just around engagement, and what I'm hearing is really starting from what do we know, what are the plans we have, what are the resources, the types of inputs we have. The community survey that was just completed that you'll get your presentation on. Like, there are a lot of inputs to start from. So I guess the question beyond that, are there key stakeholder groups, internal or external, that are essential to a successful plan, both in the development, but also in the buy-in and support going forward?
I think Councilor Teeter and the mayor talked a bit about just like how much that staff input on this is important. And I think that that's all levels of staff would be really interesting because maybe our entry level folks are the future city manager, right? And so just making sure that we have all levels of staff able to give input and from all departments, right? I do think it's important to have representation from across the organization because they each experience work differently.
There have been some conversations, I think, among managers and others about how to go about doing that. That's important.
I think that it could be helpful to have some funded partner input, or the partners who we provide funding to provide input, because they implementing the work staff adjacent a lot of times.
Hearing the perspectives and both what's working and what the challenges might be and the opportunities ahead from them. Good. All right.
Sorry, can you elaborate? Do you mean like county or?
I mean, like, we provide funding for the nonprofit incubator to do a lot of outreach, or other organizations like that, and just making sure that they understand the strategic plan process that we're going through, and if they see anything that we're missing in it that could be really valuable, I just wouldn't want to miss anything there. I don't think it's as important to me as staff input, but go adjacent to a lot of the work that we do. Did I mention it? That makes sense?
Yeah, when you said it, I thought of the county and I was trying to process that, and now I'm just processing that.
Sure.
Okay. I was just like-
Well, and you have a whole host of boards and commissioners too. I mean, is that a group that you would want to engage in this process?
Yes, and timing really matters. And the board and commissions often are really good at the one task that we've asked them to do, and we're going through iterative change with them. My reservation is that it either kind of needs to be really early But like the more we go along and the more technical it becomes, it's hard to have input. And so I think timing will really matter on the groups. And I think to Counselor Hassan's earlier point, we go to the community and ask a lot of things. Like, is this one, when we have so much input to land use, they've had so much input into the comp plan, they've had so much input into, or they'll have input in the TSP. Like, at what point do the people they elect really get in the weeds? Because this plan requires detail knowledge. I think we need kind of like red, green, yellow. Like, are we headed the right direction? Is this the vision you see? But I think how we ask for it is going to be really important on whether it is meaningful or not.
Yeah, and the timing also, I think, influences the types of questions you're able to ask, right? And what you're seeking from them, and having a clear strategy around what that's going to look like, I think is really it. You know, is it at the front end, kind of, you know, clear, you know, indicator ideas around what's going to be important, or is it on the back end around what this is going to look like in action, right? And those are different points of
Make one more point that, you know, like in land use, there's like 10 principles of land use, and we over prioritize community input over everything else, regulation, the idea. And a lot of times, and we've seen it happen in 2 cities, in the city that our CDD director just came from, where they overturned a plan that they had to do per the regulation of the region. And then we saw a mayor in King City get voted out for implementing a similar plan because they felt like community input wasn't heard. Well, the input was heard, but we still have all this regulation we have to compile with. And so when we ask people, do you want, you know, the city to grow double the population? The answer is probably always going to be no. That's not the right question. We have to do this per this other regulation. So there is a lot to plans. Community involvement is one of them, but I don't think it overpowers the staff expertise or the council's knowledge of the budget and foresight or those kind of things. And so how we use the feedback, timing is really important, but also how much we weigh versus all these other things we have to do.
Well, especially when you're mentioning before about the importance of having this be a strategic plan for the organization, right? And so you really want to make sure that you are bringing the right voices into the room for that. Nadia?
I want to echo a little bit of Mayor Beatty's. I don't know if it's like a yes and, but as we have asked the community a lot, if we're doing a levy and all this other stuff, like I just want to be thoughtful, like timing will also really matter with how we engage with board and commission members. You know, this year we paused on a couple boards, and, you know, as a council liaison for one of those boards, like there's a lot of feelings about that I've had to hear. And so walking hand in hand with each other as we go through the process of board and commission input, I mean, I'm not saying I don't want their input, but it really has to be like intentional and thoughtful, because there's been a lot of, I think, just like unintentional consequences of decisions that we've made. And so I get very like, how are we doing it? What does it look like? Can we show up together at the meeting? You know, how are we bringing them along? Because if we're saying, hey, we want your input on the strategic plan, by the way, please pass this levy with us. Like, it, you know, so just figuring out how we find a way to do it all while being really thoughtful of these folks who truly are like dedicated volunteers.
Well, and thinking about the role that you see for them, right? And if you have a role for them, I mean, maybe it's keeping them informed and educated about what's going on. And, you know, because you have a lot of moving parts with the levy and other things underway, it's going to require that extra level of intention, making sure that people aren't getting confused, because that can happen. And so you really have to, yeah, timing matters, the messaging, the approach. I mean, I think it's helpful. Just want to make sure that you're all kind of having these sorts of ideas and conversations to think through the yes or no. Like, there's no single answer. It's what's going to work for all of you.
Oh, something we don't know, because it feels like you're asking like a particular question.
Not at all.
Okay, just making sure.
No, and that's my point. I'm not trying to, I just want to make sure that you're thinking, no, I don't, there's no secret agenda at all. I just think that having clarity, and I'm hearing agreement in the room, and that's what I'm listening for, to make sure that you're all moving the same page, because there's nuance and people interpret things with anything in different ways. You know, what does this mean? And I'm not hearing any big deviation.
I mean, since we're trying to talk about a thing, like when I heard the mayor say annexation and facilities needs, I think those are 100% things we want to know about. Is that a thing that goes in the strategic plan, or is that just something we're making sure we touch on?
I think it's I guess
Yes,
my
they
point
are.
was like, we need that to shape how we're doing it, right? Because if we're making a plan for 20 years from now, we probably need to include the areas that is in the urban growth boundary that are going to come in. And that's going to be influenced by whether or not we annex. So we are being told this is the future, and you look at the map, this is the future shape of what Beaverton is supposed to be per the urban growth boundary. Will we end up there will be based on decisions we make today, but I think we need to have that in the plan in the future to know where we're headed. Because if we're like, absolutely not annexation, no way, then maybe it doesn't belong in the plan. But we continue to have conversations about annexation because there's another level of government saying that is the size your city's going to be in the future. So I do think it's really important for a plan that is going to outlive this council, because what have we done around annexation? Virtually nothing. And I'm not advocating that we do it. I'm just saying the city could literally be double the square or double the population we are right now in 15 to 20 years. And are we equipped to do that? The city hall building, the police department, the other buildings. So I think everything that we do is going to be dependent on that.
Well, and I mean, over the years, we've talked a bit about wanting to create an annexation strategy, and I think it's something that gets pushed aside with all the other things that we ask to get done, right? It gets pushed on the priority list, which I think it's fair. But perhaps that is part of the long-term strategy, is like, there's an annexation strategy as part of the strategic plan. And, I think we have to maybe build that into the strategy, right? To say like, oh, well, we should do that. And not because we plan for what it looks like in 20 years so much as that we want to know how we will handle it, I guess, when it comes, right? And so that we're not caught on the back foot, unable to react, And I think the other thing about a strategic plan that can be kind of hard with like such a huge organization in terms of like the breadth and depth of things that we do is that I think that's where maybe all those different plans have come, like, oh, well, we need something specific in this area, And so how do you then use all those as inputs into building this larger plan without reinventing the wheel, without re-asking the same question, right? So I think it'll be a really interesting exercise to see how all those plans that do exist come in to inform the strategic plan. And how do you also, because I struggle with this at work too, is like I'm trying to build a strategy for 3 to 5 years, but every day a new fire happens. I shouldn't use fire because people in the city might actually deal with a real fire. I don't. I build software. So, but like you have to also build contingency into the strategy, right? So that we can meet the moment to the, conversation in the room, that we can make sure that we can pivot, that when there's a pandemic or overstepping federal government, that the city has the flexibility to adjust, but that we also know that we're driven by our priorities and our values. That like there's a level of expectation on how the city of Beaverton shows up, because we've said these things matter to us year after year after year, right? And the strategy kind of helps us continue to get to that place of us looking not the same in the future, right? But that we all recognize Beaverton 10, 20, 30 years from now too.
And that's the balance that is here. So you want to be thinking for the future, but your strategic plan, oftentimes, and you have to decide the duration, is a 5-year plan, right? And so what are you going to work on to try to accomplish, to move forward within a 5-year horizon? And so you don't want to lose sight of what can be longer. And you have other plans that signal that, but the operational plan is typically, kind of 3 to 5. With regular review and update so that it's realistic, so that you can budget for it, so that you can drive it in a way that actually gets results. All right. Other thoughts? Let's pivot a little bit and start to think a little bit now about what does this look like? What to think about that long-term vision. What do you want to make true for the future? So to do that, we have an activity that I'm going to ask you to work on leading up to, and then we have dinner. So similar to what we did yesterday, you know, we're going to make some notes and share them, and then you can have a dinner. We're going to do some organizing around that while you eat and enjoy your time. But we have 2 questions. Everybody should have 2 sets of 3 Post-its, 3 blue, 3 pink. If you have a different number, then let me know. If you have more, that's up to you to decide. If you have fewer, let me know. But on each Post-it, so starting with the blue ones, and you can see we've got blue and pink up on the screen too. The first prompt, the first question I'm asking you to think about is, what are those things that are true today about Beaverton? And that can be organizationally, that can be about the community, those things that are true today that you value and you want to continue to be true as you look to the future. Those things that you want to preserve and hold on to. So one idea per Post-it note, 3 in total, things that are true today that you want to have true still 10 years from now. The pink one, I'll give you the second set of instructions here, are those things that are not true today, but that you would like to see true 10 years from now. That's the aspirational we're working toward. So as you have those written down, 1 idea per Post-it, you can put them over here. Do we have Julie, do we have the true today? We're going to do over on this flip chart here, we'll put a header that says true today and one that says true in 10 years. Stick your Post-its up there. We're going to organize them and see what kind of themes start to emerge. So once you've done your Post-its, you can grab some dinner. Yes, everybody gets 3 and 3. That's right. Yep. I gave you Post-its. I mean, that's a good sign. Okay, well, everybody gets to play the sandbox today. You only got 2? What color are you missing? All right, what are you? You have 3 and 3? No. Yesterday you got nothing and today you got shorted? Wow. Yesterday I was. Does everybody else have 3 and 3? 3 and 3, 3 and 3. Tim's checking. You have them. Go ahead and stick them up on the wall over here to the left. Have your dinner. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Was that? Yeah, exactly. Pink, blue. Like 24-hour around the clock, but 18 hours around the clock. Yeah, fair, okay. Yeah, you want me to give you them or you have some? Yeah, perfect, thanks. Right up on the front sheet, you want to grab one up there? Thanks. If you see it, otherwise I can organize it. You just sit them while they're all organize them. Yeah. Thank you. Anywhere is fine, and we can organize. Hmm? Okay. Or just put them in the corner that I can organize them too. No, do not apologize. Me. All right. So at the risk of hiding myself in the corner over here with all of your Post-its, I'm going to. If you want to stand up and come over and kind of look, we can take a look, share. But I want to walk through what emerged from your activity. I think we're still missing a few people, so we'll do a slow roll to this. Edward, there's Kevin. I know that Ashley was right here. She's super close. She's right here. Okay, so what's that? That's blend in. That's perfect. Okay. So I want to do just a little bit. We did some theming. These are loose themes, and so I'm going to share some of the highlights. But it starts to give you a flavor for some of the things that you might start to uncover as you're thinking about the future. So just to kind of whet your appetite a little bit. So we asked the first question around what's true today in Beaverton that you want to make sure continues to be true for the community. And so I'll read some of these. I won't read every single Post-it, but give you a flavor for some of the words that are on here. So for up here, this is a theme sort of around the environmental resources. So Beaverton has clean and reliable water, safe, plentiful water, also beautiful natural spaces. And so that's why we kind of bundled those together. This whole collection here relates to safety. And so safe community, safe travel options, safe city. Oops, restaurant destination. Maybe that one goes someplace else. People were slipping things in here, so we'll put that down here. We are a safe city. So, lots of energy around safety, which makes sense. We talked about that yesterday. All of these are individual in nature, but all sort of touch the idea of quality of life for Beaverton. So high quality of life, people are proud to live here, desirable place, feels like a small town. It's the it spot, hub for the West Side, a fun place to visit. Flower baskets, gives a little flavor, extra flair. What? No one's going to claim it? I think it's great. Tanya! Okay, we can all agree we love the flower baskets because it gives quality of life. It has a sense of place. All right. Okay, talk amongst yourselves later. Okay, good. People are proud to live here. Known for its innovation. I wasn't sure if this was related to the broad Beaverton known for innovation, or if it's about the organization. It could go, obviously it could go either place depending on the intent. But we put it over quality of life, thinking that was, a reputational element. Here, vibrant downtown, so thriving restaurant community, dynamic downtown, vibrant downtown, restaurant destination, thriving downtown and awesome restaurants. So you can see there's a lot of consistency here. These are all related to the delivery of services and government. So we called it effective government just for purposes of my understanding where we're going. Accessibility, so accessible city government, dedicated, committed council and leadership team, great staff. Pragmatic, non-performative government. Let's see, consistent, reliable support for residents. Individuals can spend their whole careers at the city, so the staff again. And then some vulnerable populations have access to support and resources. And so this is a little adjacent, maybe to quality of life, effective government, but we put it here for now. These two relate to the business community, so being a welcoming community environment, business growth that attracts businesses to the city. Housing, only one posted, but it says strides in housing. So we're headed in the right direction. All of this speaks to diversity, inclusion, belonging, welcoming. So lots of great words and post-its here that reflect the value that you place on this, and we want to sustain this. So those were the themes that sort of jumped out for the what's true today that we want to hold on to. Any surprises, or aside from the flower basket, that comes from this side? Don't you want to emphasize? Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay, so things that are not true, but that we want to work on, we want to make happen 10 years from now. And so a whole lot of even buried post-its here around financial health. And so, we're obviously this is a big focus. We've talked a lot about it yesterday, but financial stability and sustainability, financially sustainable general fund. We're receiving revenue from Nike. Some things are. Name that post-it. There we go. Yeah, exactly. No more deficit. You can all agree on that, right? Long-term strong fiscal health, the city that's more financially healthy with a healthy reserve, financial surplus. So all of these related to financial health. I mean, in 10 years, here we go. Oh gosh. Nice. Wow. The beaver coin. The portal could help with that. That's true. The portal and the Bitcoin do have to go together. All right, bringing it back together. All right, so here we have a lot of things. We called it thriving organization because there's a lot of things related to how the work's done and also staff. So appropriate growth in staff for service levels, full confidence that we can meet future service demands, competitive pay for employees, high performance government tools that we can afford. The city has set the standard for excellence among its peers nationwide, and city systems are fully integrated. Is that yours, Travis? Oh. Yeah, chief. Okay. So, but this is all sort of speaks to the organization and making sure to focus on this. And what this tells me in the context of a strategic plan, both in the terms of the things that we want to hold on to. I thought we had, effective government. And then these elements, like it's clear you're gonna want to have something in your plan that speaks to high performing government or the high performing organization, thriving organization, something that really allows you to prioritize how you are developing. And this whole bit here relates to roads and infrastructure and mobility. So it starts off with kind of planning and funding roads. We have goals related to the CPI. We have safe crosswalks. We have a solid infrastructure and operations maintenance plan. We have infrastructure facilities built to last. And then we have city infrastructure to support growth as a tidy and walkable community. Tidy, nicely written too, so easy to read. So. And then we start to get into the mobility piece. And so we have a lot down here around pedestrian friendly. Then we have less cars, safe and well-distributed bike and pedestrian facilities. We have the TSP and a thoughtfully connected trail network. We have a trolley. We have public transit. Have a trolley north-south. Yeah. Not this is, yeah, you can. Dreaming is good. Dreaming is absolutely. But what this says is just like the organization, and not surprising given the conversation yesterday, infrastructure, roads, mobility, big focus for what you want to move toward. So you can really see how this might find its way into your strategic plan. Did you pay everybody off with that beaver coin thing, right? Okay. So down here we have these were all related to kind of alignment, having aligned strategic plan and values. Beaverton has a clear identity that is unique. Employees see them, so the city has, the city that dreams big and delivers big results. And then this is that everybody can see themselves in the. This speaks to jobs, employment, more larger employers. I will say when I first read that, no offense to whoever wrote it, I wrote more large employees. I was like, wow, interesting. That's surprising. Just like the trolley and the flowers, surprising, but large employers made a little more sense. It makes sense to start a small business here. So again, we're reflecting on some of the things we heard yesterday. Here we have more about affordable housing. Everyone has an affordable place to live, more affordable housing. These are sort of related to the environment loosely. So Beaverton's creeks are daylit and full of life. And Beaverton has is carbon neutral and running on clean energy. Did I misread that one?
Oh, no, I just knew.
Oh. A creek. All right, and then down here, speaking to downtown, we have 24-hour city core, active downtown, well-connected downtown to trails and areas, so we can have that sort of related to each other, and then connectivity to downtown. So again, that sort of crosses over between downtown and mobility. I mentioned the mobility. This is industrial presence. So we talked yesterday about economic development. You know, there's interest in small business, but maybe more broad also. And we've got evidence of that up here, where we want to make sure we're also have more industrial area annexed to the city, and then strong industrial presence. And so diversifying there. What have I missed? Thoughtful growth. And so perhaps reflective of the annexation conversation we were having a little bit ago. So fewer county islands and a map that makes sense. And these are sort of standalone, I'm not sure where to bundle them, sort of ideas. We have multiple neighborhoods that are mixed use and have their own thriving identities. That fits in. And then a plan for Griffin property. Griffith party, what is it? Court building, okay. Okay. And then vulnerable groups have access to support. And that's the immigrants, refugees, all of them ultimately have final homes. But any surprises on the thing aside from the trolley? There it is, right? Exactly. But no surprises from what we talked about yesterday, I would say, in terms of sort of the big areas of interest, at least at this point in time. So reactions?
I'm not shocked by any of it, but I do think like the industrial presence, some of the maps that make sense are more reflective about taxing inequity, and it follows that, I mean, they're not mine, but, and they follow fiscal health. And so I think, you know, would I want a large industrial presence in the city? No, I would not. I understand why we need one because it helps pay the bills, but if we were creating a perfect community, we wouldn't want industrial in the middle of our thriving community. We would want it in Hillsborough. But we need that.
But you want the dollars.
But we want the dollars, right? But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, that
That's
is a
the-
reflection of where we are. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, and that's where, as you're doing your strategic planning and you're coming up with the things you're looking for, having the conversations around why, right, John? To what end? What are we trying to accomplish, and for what purpose? These are important questions to ask because it helps to shape, particularly at the strategy level. What are the things you want to incorporate? And maybe there's a business strategy around economic development for health, financial health.
I would just say all of these feel optimistic and attainable to me. They do not feel, we're not in a doom loop, and we're not in these are like wild ideas that we can't do. These all feel, we got our stuff together and we were able to make some meaningful progress. These feel achievable to me.
And like 10 years ago, there was not even a downtown.
Yeah.
I actually think we could put Griffith with thriving organization because it's just reflective of like the plan that we need to, you know, like that we got a plan for it. Maybe there's something really cool that is there.
If it's part of the courthouse, then obviously that's sort of adjacent to. Cool. Anybody else? All right, well, we'll leave this and let this just percolate. And again, I'll put this in our summary report. So this gives a little bit of a boost for some of the strategic planning work that you will be. So, all right. When we find our seats, we'll continue. I like that you can bring your mic with you. BYOM. I know that. Super smart. Yeah. All right. So from here, we want to, again, kind of use this time to start to think about the community, about the organization, about where you want to go. So the next set of discussions we want to have are elements of what is a traditional sort of SWOT analysis, abridged, if you will. So we want to think about when you think about Beaverton, capital B, can be the organization, can be the community. What are the strengths? Some of which we may have started to see through the True Today portion. What are the strengths? What are the challenges? And what are the opportunities on the horizon? So again, just kind of doing some brainstorming, getting stimulated around opportunity. And this is information that can start to feed your strategic planning process as you're moving forward. Okay, so how are we going to do this, Nancy? Well, oops, we're not taking a dinner break. We did that. We're gonna do this in groups. So you can brainstorm, and so we'll do 2 table groups of strengths, 2 table groups of challenges, 2 table groups of opportunities, and then we'll do some report out so everybody will have an opportunity to provide additional thoughts or ideas. And so you can touch each of them, but we'll do some intentional brainstorming on these topics at different groups. And so because you may have specific things you want to brainstorm, let's just open it up. So first come, first serve. What are 2 tables that would like to talk about strengths? Well, so I will assign. Okay, strengths 1, strengths 2. Oh, God, because I was thinking city of the government. I was like, whoa, that's the same thing. We want to talk about the strength. We can talk about. Right, I'm thinking broadly, both. You can talk about both because one leads to the other. But we don't want to lose the organization. I think the organization is important. Okay, so you guys good with strengths? There's no right and wrong answers here. This is just kind of free flowing. So strengths. All right. Challenges. All right. Do I hear another challenges? Also the doomsayers. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, I don't think you are either. Challenges. All right. You guys, Mary, you're on the opportunities table. Jenny, you guys, Kevin, you're on opportunities as well. So let's take the next 15, 20 minutes, just kind of brainstorm. But make sure you're capturing your ideas because I'm going to ask you to report out and Julie's going to capture those for us and then we can weigh in. For the record, do the opposite of doomsayer, just for the record. That was like challenges. Let's do down part. That's why.
Nancy, we have a question.
Okay.
Have an opportunity.
Visiting, but when you went visiting, you go to maybe that, you dating. Every week they look good. Tower Records. We're having a moment. Yeah, but then. There's not those numbers. No, that's, yeah, that's. Yeah. And then this is. Yeah, the bottom one's the mall, it's the top, the movie theater and. Yeah, but I mean, also all of this. Yeah, no, totally, yeah. Yeah, well, all my sister, yeah. Wait, hold on, I want to see my house. A little more, right there. Seriously, that's my house. Oh my gosh, yeah, I have that little island on. I'm basically right in the movie in here. Oh, up here, yeah, is that right? There's a miller, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that would be. Oh, wait, that's mine? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm. You might are that over. But like, but so you can see though, right? This is my favorite. What is the area right here? It's like. That's cool, yeah, that's West Water, but that's itself, right? Yeah. So mine is RM. Love to do your hand sign. Because I'm also like the around it. This is But we were discussing if one of the strengths was. I went in with them the other day. They go busy. And so do they close? He's like, "Mom,
I think you guys have kind of wound down your conversation, so I'm going to bring it back to a large group. And just an update, let you know that Allison's listening in. We'll get her comments on each of these afterwards. You challenging table. We checked in with her, so she'll weigh in afterwards, and she's going to listen to the report out conversation for now. Also, I'm just going to point out that Julie's doing some theming over there, so we'll have a little visual that reflects that conversation too. Okay, so we're going to report out from each of the groups. We'll go through each of them, and if you have additional ideas or comments, then we will take those as well. And then this is my gift to all of you, because I can tell people are we had a day yesterday. We'll wind down this, we'll then wrap up kind of next steps, and we will say until we meet again, sort of thing. So strengths. You guys want to go first?
Okay, well, we had a lot. So we had past investments are paying off. The mayor referenced that earlier, some of the investments we've made in the past with water, for example. We talked about we have some stability and some tenure on council now. Folks have been here for a couple years. We talked about a good leadership team that is value aligned with the organization. Which also leads to some good chemistry and trust between leadership and council. We talked about, for the most part, we have pretty healthy relationships with our unions, and that we have good relationships with the community. We don't really have like super strong factions necessarily lined up in opposition. We talked about our neighborhood association structure is productive. We are fiscal realists, and so we're willing to have hard conversations about our financial situation and lots of conversations. We talked about there may be some organizational silos that exist, but they aren't really there due to any ill will or, that people want them to be there. There's just maybe some structures or just lack of collaborative practices, and people are willing to work on that. We talked that we have some good volunteer engagement through our boards and commissions, that our turnover rates have decreased over the last year. And then we talked a little bit about that we are not ones to foster drama, When our council have disagreements, they're talking about them professionally. They're not going after each other on social media, for example, like some other jurisdictions. And that we're generally have good collaboration. So even when there's tension with our fellow government organizations or special districts, that we keep the conversation open and we try to collaborate. Is there anything that I missed from either of you?
Organization.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and all those dynamics are really important. And you described a lot about culture, actually. And what helps to make the organization productive is that culture. So that's great. All right, what did we take a similar tact or a different tact over here?
We took different
Good.
approach.
That's fine.
So the things that we talked a lot about are our strengths being our community diversity. We think our location is a strength. And we talked about how we're close to commerce, we're close to the mountain, we're close to the beach, but we're in just kind of this perfect little spot of beautiful Beaverton. We also have a very welcoming community. We were kind of talking about just kind of even like a little bit of the small town feel, even though we're not really small town anymore. And we talked about the tree lighting as just like kind of being one of those types of events where the community just like comes together and it feels like just really
Connected.
yeah, connected. I was gonna say precious, but that might be too tender, huh? We also think we have a pretty strong foundation of economic development, and so that's the recognition of where we are, but also where we can go, and that we talked a lot about, you know, that there used to not be a downtown Beaverton. There was like a neighborhood designation of downtown Beaverton, but nobody could have told you where it was, and there's so much there that like creates identity, but that we can keep building on and like continue to invest in. And that we also think we have kind of a growing cultural scene, and we can just kind of see that this strong economic development foundation and this budding cultural scene can help kind of accelerate even like Beaverton's future.
Well, and the unique qualities that it creates too. I mean, I feel like it's very defined Beaverton too, right? It is reflective of the community and the diversity and all of the different ingredients. So in each case, both for the organization and for the community, these are things to leverage, right? Things to build on as you're thinking about where do we want to go? How are we going to get there? So great. See, it's complementary. So we had the organization. Exactly. Even when it's not planned. See, that's great. All right. Very, very good. All right. So let's talk about some challenges now. Challenges. All right, Travis.
All right. One is the financial situation, money in general. Other uncertainty and external factors such as climate. Sense of belonging, really struggling in the greater Pacific Northwest. Bird maintenance, roads, buildings, software. That was the big ones.
They got into big technology
We had
conversation
some,
over here.
yeah, larger conversations about things like going, so that, for instance, if we are going to be doubling in size, scalability, that should be the theme of a lot of our decisions we're making now, and those are not, that's not a part, not looking to double our capacity. So that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Just, we had a conversation about if needing to invest in efficiently, which kind of at odds with reducing budgets, but like that's a hard part of that conversation to have too. If we're needing to structure up, sometimes we need to modernize things first.
Right, there needs to be some strategic investment in order to be more effective or more efficient.
Right, like manual process is very, very inefficient, but to replace that with something more automated and less manual would.
Right, yep. And these are conversations that you're going to want to have as you're navigating the budget choices too. All right, let's hear the other challenges conversation. We'll do opportunities, and then I'm going to ask to go through them again. And if you have additional thoughts or ideas, things you want to weigh in on, then we can do that. Challenges?
Okay, I'll just go through the list. Federal and state laws which are a threat to the city, such as development laws, Measure 550, tax laws. financial liabilities such as PERS, um, workforce reduction outside of the city's control, which lead to property losses, slow growth, which could threaten property taxes and business support, landlocked, need annexation, heavily dependent on large employers, need medium-sized businesses, raising revenue and identifying a way to raise revenue for first-time success. Oh, shoot. Okay, I'll go louder. Okay, difficult to build out downtown due to highways being built through the town, impact of immigration policies and uncertainty of long-term impacts on economic development of the city, impact of special districts. It could be good and bad. Move things along. Threats connected,
Good and bad in what way? Sorry.
move things along.
Special districts?
Yeah.
Or in terms of partners that can help or
Yes.
can get in the way?
Yeah, so they can get in the way or help, but it's inefficient when you want things to be done.
Okay.
Yeah. City development and infrastructure, archaic technology systems in city government, slower staff response to technological efficiencies. That's the list.
Right.
Yeah.
Julie, you got most of those over there? Okay, we'll double check your list and so we can make sure we capture all those, Edward. Okay, very good. All right, well, so challenges obviously are hurdles to overcome, right? That you have to work through and address and create opportunities. So what are some of our opportunities?
Okay. We have create new funding streams, future financial flexibility, given some of the steps that we're taking with the levy and the TUF and the fee. I also wrote down there's future reform opportunities at the state level. The TSP update, we have an opportunity to strengthen our transportation network and invest in safer streets. Access to water supply, WWSS, which will be done in 26, that we can leverage that for growth. The state is extremely supportive of housing. So again, that's another opportunity for us to leverage, which we're doing now. Bureau also has the opportunity to issue a final tranche of debt. So there's investment there.
So
Bureau, the urban renewal.
BURA,
Yeah,
yeah, acronym.
Cooper Mountain Planning, so there's future housing, neighborhood, and commercial investments. There's an opportunity to leverage Allen Boulevard Plan for future growth and also a Bureau 2.0 in the future. Pedestrian downtown activation through some of the housing that we talked about with what's happening right now in terms of current initiatives that creates more pedestrian activity in downtown and supports business stability and growth. The build grants and the loop funding, that's going to position us well for multimodal opportunities. Partnerships with the development community, we want to be the opportunity to be the city of choice. And so through our process improvement between CDD and Public Works, we can step into that space. The expansion and enhancing of our existing partners, particularly with groups like Metro, Chamber, County, and THPRD. There's much alignment there, so we can pursue joint endeavors. Placemaking through our street murals, traffic calming is another opportunity. We also feel like that we have the trust of the community, so we're poised for change and to evolve. We have strong advocacy right now at the legislative level, and we're able to build a stronger framework so that we can retain, expand, and maintain our assets and also prevent losses. We have the opportunity to modernize our internal technology and maximize efficiencies. And we have really strong regional partnerships. So think WWSS, JWC, disaster planning. And a side note is the infrastructure investments that we're making into safe water and supply in case there's an emergency.
Is that it?
That's it. When you ask us to do something, we really do it.
Well,
Got a lot written down here.
oddly, they took every one of our answers. Except,
Think alike.
so not everyone, but we'll double down on technology and seizing a moment right now all over to kind of walk into some efficiencies that we've never seen before. So that was one of them. And then momentum in economic development. And then the 12 or 15 other ones,
5 maybe.
I had those too.
I just want to like add a little bit to their point on government relations, though. I would say arguably, you could ask most people in Salem, Beaverton punches way above its weight class, and they're often shocked it's done by a very small team. And so our ability to get things done outside the city is really the special sauce of government relations, which is not so secret. It's just relationships. And Jocelyn does it really, really well. And we're very lucky to have her. So I think that gives us like an outreach far greater. Although I think the majority of our job is making things just a little bit less.
It's 100% of the job actually at the moment.
So that's an example then, of course, of it being a strength that you have and you are able to take advantage of that provides space for opportunity. And so, you know, all of these pieces fit together, which is, but no shortages, I think, of ways to navigate into the future, right? And you know, addressing challenges, leaning on the strengths of the community. Yeah, that's a lot. All right, so for those who weren't in the strengths groups, did you have other things that you didn't hear that you want to bring into the room, or just reaction generally on the thoughts around strengths? I apologize, I should have asked you as we finish these specific, right into like.
I'll add one, and I have not done a statistic. In my experience, and I'm curious if it's true for others who work within the city, higher here than most big enterprises I've worked.
That's great. There's been, I think, a lot of investment and work to try to make that so. So that's great. Just like housing is moving forward, the ability to change, evolve, also moving up. All right, other strengths? Want to emphasize? Yeah, Jocelyn.
Say the amount of institutional knowledge within the city and the amount of people that we've had here that have decades and have been through the seasons and had weathered a lot of seasons and have come out the other side and have that experience. But to Travis's point, are also still willing to look at new things brings a lot of value.
Yeah, I mean, I think the degree of commitment that you see also kind of, that really is going to. You have something you want to add? Nope. Easy.
It kind of a counterpoint to that is like, I also think, yeah,
It's the seat, it's the chair.
it's the chair is like, while there is that institutional knowledge, I also think, like this team in particular, there's some new faces, fresh eyes, different platforms of experience that has woven into the fabric of what's going on now. And I think that's a huge strength for the direction of the city.
Yeah, when you can get the right blend and be able to tap into the historical knowledge, but also the fresh ideas and the willingness to try different things, it can be really powerful. Right. So much about culture, I think, which is really interesting and really, I think, key to long-term success. All right, any other strengths we want to?
I'm proud of this. Strength, our city benefits are really good. And I'd like to add that there.
All right.
We have one of the best set of benefits among our peers.
Helps with attracting and retaining talent, right? In order to be able to do all the big things on the list of options.
Because we have a challenge that we spoke about, which is the ability to pay. So our benefits are really in our toolbox in the ability to attract.
All right, what about challenges? Those that didn't sit in challenge groups, things that are on your mind. to document.
It was kind of hinted about on some of the special districts, but, there we go. But government is complicated. And I think about that from our community members accessing a lot of really great programs that most of them don't know about. Like, it's just complicated. I hear that probably, I don't know if my other colleagues hear that a lot. It just navigating this. And I think part of it is special districts, part of it is knowing, just what the cities do versus the counties, the special districts, who to talk to in government, like all that sort of stuff. I think that's a challenge that we, like, from a perspective of user experience, I think that that's a challenge and an opportunity.
Yeah,
I think.
just to be aware of that. It is complicated. And I will add also, I mean, doing a strategic plan or operating a municipal organization on its own, set aside the others, it's complicated because you're not doing, a widget. You're not doing a thing. You're doing a lot of very diverse things. And so that is a complicated environment to be able to get a cohesive set of leaders to understand and be able to work, together when you have subcultures and you have different drivers and opportunities and challenges. It's a complex environment.
And just the other thing I would add is, like, probably half the emails we get now as elected officials are asking us to do things that other layers of government are causing for us, right? Or solve this federal issue, or like stop the federal government from being dumbasses, right? And like we can't do that, but it indicates to me that there's confusion about our role, but that we're also, I think the mayor says the best, we're also very accessible, right? So people want us to solve these things, even when we can't.
Could we add misinformation to challenges? Because that felt like what you just said.
It's so everywhere right now.
I'll add one more, that in addition to how complex some of the things are that we're working through, is that a lot of the change that we want to make just takes a long time to actually make. I think we have like one of the most pedestrian-friendly councils we could have, and yet it takes a long time to change our whole system. And so communicating that to the public is important, but you also have to say, like, patience.
It does take patience. It takes patience, perseverance, and stay in the course, because things do take a long time. That's an excellent challenge. And also, one of the benefits of having a strategic plan is to really see the progress along the way and have the vision of what you want to create in view, so that you can, like the housing, right? And the accomplishments from last year to this year, to be able to say, we got focused here and we have made progress. Housing, we have all of these new developments in the pipeline. Celebrating the milestones along the way.
I don't want to rip open an old wound here, but having served in different forms of government, there's a lot of pros to a city manager form of government, but one of the very big cons is there's no one the buck stops with. And so it's really challenging for 7 people to manage cooperatively together. And the byproduct of that is speed. And everything slows way down. Like, the city manager can't wake up one morning and be like, you know what we want to do today? Bus rapid transit and execute it and move the organization. She's got to come to the 7 of us, or staff got to make a presentation. And for us to make change, it requires immense amount of time. And we lose quickness in that. And is it good for the long run? Yes. Is it really hurt us in the short run of trying to get 7 people, very different people that share values on the same path? Like, that is the Lord's work for the 7 elected leaders to agree, come to a conclusion, direct the city manager, and then we have to do it over multiple meetings. And we can't do anything behind closed doors. We have to do it all in public. So people want us to be fast. They want us to be approachable. They want us to do things. And it's not a reality. And we're a government that is intended to be long-term. And so how do we communicate that? And don't want to go back to communication, but we didn't communicate very well how we changed the government. And now how the levers of power are pulled are very different.
Right. Well, so there are challenges and there are advantages, with anything. And so part of it is being able to see the full landscape and being able that and in a way that is productive and recognizes the value of what you have.
But that really cool charter change added position 6.
To be determined if that's a value or a
Want to put it out there.
problem. We shall know later.
All right. Any other challenges that we were talking about?
But I do just want to say as a reminder, we could have added another council position in the other form of government as well.
Okay. Opportunities that we haven't already covered, which is maybe challenging, I'm just going to say.
This was not a critique on the city management team. It's just a reality.
Well, we could go into a whole thing about the benefits. It has been exactly. So opportunities. I mean, we have a pretty good long list there. And I think we've reflected on some of those things already too. Yeah, John.
Communication, right? Like telling our story. And I'm surprised we didn't put that up because that outlines everything that we will do and everything but just telling our story.
Love it.
Is like critical.
Yeah.
And also telling our story to not the same 200 people that hear it through through our existing channels. Like we need to reach people that don't think about government, right? Because they need to hear it too.
You got a high five over here virtually right there. All right. Anything? Yes, Nadia.
I do just want to add to the mayor's point, and I have to say this. Like, there are people who literally live in cities where mayors are doing all these things or councilors are doing all these things, and that's like literally not possible here. And so for staff to just hear as you work on communication and these kinds of things, like, yes, we're in this new form of government, even though it's been 5 years, like, how do we help people understand that the council can't respond in that way? It's just something that is really, I mean, I have so many people right now who are like, oh, this mayor did this. And I'm like, we're not doing that. I mean, like, I thank you. And that's not how it works. And so just kind of putting that out there, probably, especially with the current climate, because I think all of us are potentially bearing the brunt of that right now.
Tough job. Okay. Anything anybody wants to add, reflect on, comment on? How are you feeling about the nature of these conversations and how that can potentially efforts? Seems to me like, yeah, Kevin, go, yay.
So coming from the group that wrote a page and a half notes for opportunities, that is very exciting for me. I know we are working in some really challenging times with some really challenging budget issues, but it is exciting to see, one, the strengths that we can build on, but then the challenge or the opportunities that just are some open doors or some doors that might be cracked open that we can just explore a little bit what the path might be like down that road. There are some options for us to be able to move forward with some really exciting work and some really good work that the city's already doing. So budget stuff can feel like doom and gloom all the time, but there is more going on than that.
It's open the aperture a little bit and look at all of the possibilities. That it can be very inspiring, and that's the value in bringing along employees and bringing along key stakeholders. It can be really inspiring to feel today.
Yeah, I still think about what the mayor said earlier. Like our strategic plan, once it's built, cannot just sit on the shelf. So not only do we have to build it correctly, we have to socialize it amongst staff and elected officials, and then we have to, I don't know if it's one of these things or something from the dais, be able to engage with it and interact with it and think about it and let it infuse our policy decisions so it's not a tool of confusion or further confusion, right? Like it's going to be what it was meant to be, which is a guide, like a long-term guide for us.
Roadmap.
Right. And we can't like that's something I'm really curious to see how we and my colleagues on the council, and the mayor, how we can operationalize our part of this by not creating confusion And I'm thinking about that myself, but TBD on that, I guess. But I think that's, because it is, we have elections next year. There's potential for new council members to be in this room. How are they going to buy into it? Like, how are they going to learn to be counselors? Like, it took us a while to do that, and it's,
Find a new groove, but
does.
if you have hopefully a framework and a roadmap that you can orient your new team, that gives you something to start from. There's going to be an adjustment period, but at least if you can anchor them in all of the work that will be accomplished. The commitment in this room is right where it needs to be. And so it's just a matter of maintaining that. Yeah, hand or a wave. Else? Okay. Well, that's what we have for this evening. I have more. Yeah.
Counterpoint. No, I think it just occurs to me like what was said yesterday, actually by me, of the inside baseball versus insider outsider thing, and
I would like to commend myself for such smart comments yesterday.
it's late. But the insider outsider piece of the folks in this room are the most inside of all of the organization of arguably the community about what's happening in the city, what the city is doing and can do. And I just think that aspect of communication, like let's get out there and truth this with residents and with the staff, right? Like see if we've got the right mix. The observation.
I heard a commitment from the executive team to go out during the levy conversations and be giving presentations in the evening. So I appreciate your willingness to help with that.
Okay. All right. Well, then if there are.
He's already on the list.
What's that? Putting it on the list? It's an opportunity for you, Jenny. Yeah. Next steps. I've said it a dozen times, I think. So we will take all of the input and the conversations that have happened over the last day and an evening and put it into a summary report so that we have documentation so that you have this as a tool and a resource as you're moving into the budget conversations. Just a reminder, we covered a lot of territory over the last couple of days. And so there's a draft framework for how to approach the budget and some guidelines that can be instructive internally, but also in the communication with council. As you're navigating that, we spent time and developed a set of priorities that will also inform that process, but also give a roadmap and a touch point as the budget is being developed and as you are making decisions about this or that, right? This or that, back and forth, we have choices, we have guidelines. And then the information from this evening. And hopefully it leaves you with not on a budget note, but on an inspiration note about thinking about where you get to go and what you get to do. And you get to do that together, and what a great group to do that with. So that's the next steps. We'll bring that back to you. And I thought we would just do kind of a quick optional, not everybody has to do it, but kind of a quick reflection and kind of a fun way to do it. I don't remember if we did this previously, but we like to call it 6-word slam. And so how you feeling about where we are in 6 words? So as an example, we can do great things together. We can do great things together. That would be an example. They have some, how you're feeling in 6 words. Yes.
Before we,
oh, you're so back?
I was so excited to close this out yesterday. I want to just echo what I just said, because I know we're about to say goodbye. Like, I know that the city and everyone's working really hard on what we're doing in our community right now, but really asking for like a partnership that we can communicate out what we can and can't do, because it is really starting to impact, I think, all of us. And so I just want to take a moment to say that. And then we can do great things together.
Oh, a thief, yay! All right, let's hear a couple more. Just come on, give me just a little bit of energy, but then we can let you go.
I can't subscribe to the 6 words, but since we have a Japanese sister cities, I'm going to do it in a form of haiku. Small steps, big vision. We rise with every bold move. Greatness grows right here.
Ooh, oh, wow. All right. Mic drop. That's okay. All right. All right. It's okay. There were great words. You guys can debate that later. Okay. Anybody else have a haiku or a six word slam? How are we feeling? Come on. Kevin's got one.
We can't make any promises. Flower pots.
I was gonna channel my inner Steve Ballmer and his developers chant with aligned, 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 aligned. And it's that.
That's an easy way to make sure you get it right that way too. Okay. Aligned, 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 aligned. One more. Oh. Working on what I can tell. Okay. All right. Said no, what? No.
Okay, Dan got some help here, but I liked this one. Rain falls, ideas rise, Beaverton thrives.
Oh. Y'all have. And not ChatGPT, right? I heard that earlier. All right, you guys. Well, that's all we have. Thank you for letting me be a part of the conversation. Appreciate you guys. Have a great evening. See you hopefully again soon.